Coming up on today's Philadelphia 76ers Now, multiple NBA analysts rip Paul George, rightfully, deservingly so. We're going to talk about that coming up on the show. But first, our sub-goal for today's episode is to get to 20,100 subscribers. We are only 83 people away from that milestone. So if you want year-round Sixers coverage from myself and producer Chip, lock us in. It's a no-brainer, and hit that subscribe button. So the national media has not been kind to Paul George, nor has the city of Philadelphia. But let me ask you this. What has Paul George done in his debut season with the Philadelphia 76ers that deserves praise? He's been terrible, lacks confidence, looking like Tobias Harris out there. Toby's playing better, scared to shoot the basketball. I get it. Early on in his stint, he was dealing with a lot of injuries, and it's been an injury-riddled season for Philadelphia. But the body language, the lack of seriousness, the non-competitiveness, it feels to me like Paul George got that bag, and he's like, you know what? Last contract that I'll probably get, I'm good. Other people are starting to take notice outside of Philadelphia. And myself and Chip, we're at the Eagles Super Bowl parade on Friday. The highest of highs. I've never had a day where I woke up at 6:30 a.m., went to bed at like 12:30 a.m. 1, and I was on such a high for every single second of that day. And then the parade passes, you're still like, wow, the Eagles really are Super Bowl 59 champions. And then I see a tweet on this Tuesday morning from the 76ers account on X, and they're like, Sixers basketball is back. I responded by saying, unfortunately, Sixers basketball is back. Bunch of people liked it, but that's how we all feel. I don't want to care about the 76ers. I might boycott watching them for the rest of the year. That's how disappointed I am, and part of that is Paul George. Here's what Stephen A. Smith had to say about him from the national angle after we give you the local angle. I've never seen Paul George look this bad. It's not just a shooting slump. He's averaging 10 points over the last 5 games. 2 of the last 5 games, he's scored in single digits. He's been horrible. I'm waiting to hear one of 2 things. Either he's injured and playing through it, or he doesn't want to be in Philly. Because he doesn't look like a person that's enthused to be in Philadelphia. He took the money because clearly he doesn't look like a dude that wants to play. That's what I'm seeing. I hope that I'm wrong, but he looks really, really bad. Spot the lie. I want you to spot the lie. He doesn't look as though he's interested. He doesn't look like he wants to play for the Sixers. It looks as though he got the money and now he's content. Hope you enjoyed the vacation during All-Star break in Mexico. I saw a great tweet. It's like Paul George is on the beach in Mexico, whereas if Jimmy Butler was on this team, he'd be gathering the army ready to go to battle for a second-half run. It's not happened with PG. He doesn't have that dog in him. And look, the receipts are there. That was one of my concerns when we talked about him going into free agency. But Stephen A. brings up that important question. Does PG want to be in Philly? It's possible that he got that bag and then decided to mail it in. And I think about some of the things that he said, right? A couple of months ago, he was saying, I'm bored. And then he said last week, it's really hard to play with Joel Embiid. Bro, figure it out. How about you take more than 7 shots in a game? We could start there. Kendrick Perkins on Paul George, noticing a lot of the things that we've noticed. If you're on the floor and you're playing, damn it, you got to produce. And I'm not saying he should have gone out there and had 40, but 2 points is unacceptable, especially in today's game. Hell, I can go get 4 points right now in today's game by accident, okay? Yeah, probably with the side of flats, as Kendrick Perkins would say. And when Perkins is right, you know it's been bad. And it's been really, really bad. Then there's Tom Habistro of Yahoo Sports, formerly of ESPN. Paul George is verging on Chris Middleton territory. It's bad. He looks like he had both ankles worked on in the offseason. It's uninspiring. He's got 9 20-point games this season. Kelly Oubre has more. Kelly Oubre looks like the better player right now than Paul George, and Paul George has $56 million coming to him in 3 years in 2028. Are we about to see the process revisit this organization once again? My goodness. Chip, I know you have a lot of thoughts. You were in Philly with me. The highs of the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, the aura, the vibe of the city, so great. And then you think about the Sixers playing inside the Wells Fargo Center. Who the hell cares?
You just wish the Sixers were as good of a run organization as the Eagles.
Yep.
Because maybe we'd have a ring by now. But Paul George, just what a disappointment. And at this point, I'm not even hoping for him to turn it around this year. Because I think it kind of just is what it is.
Yeah.
And I think Stephen A is kind of right. It's not just that he's been missing shots, right? And his shot hasn't been falling or he's been cold. When you watch him out there, he just sometimes looks like he just doesn't care.
Yeah.
He's just out there playing basketball because it's his job. He probably hates playing in the cold weather. He's a Cali guy. He's even said it. He doesn't like playing in the cold. That's why he went to the Clippers in the first place. And even when you go back to his free agency, right? I think, ideally, he did want to stay with the Clippers until they disrespected him, right? Because of the whole money situation. They didn't want to commit to him like the Sixers were willing to do. And then there was even still the rumors of him going to Golden State. And I think there was a real chance that he could have gone to Golden State over the Sixers if they were able to work out a trade in that scenario. I think he would have rather been in Golden State than Philly. So I don't really know if Philly was ever his number one choice. It was just the team willing to pay him his money. So I don't think it's all that surprising now as we sit here to question how much he wants to be in Philly compared to, to actually play here and be on this team and play with him, play with Maxey, as opposed to just playing for the money and the massive, massive contracts he got. And again, I'm not really worried about him turning it around this year. I'm more worried about now what the Sixers do moving forward because he has this big deal, and if this is how it's going to be, this could be the best it gets for Paul George because he's only getting older. Just such a disappointment. And look, the All-Star break about to be over. 28 games left in the year. Could get even worse than what we've seen so far this season.
It's just crazy, too, because last year he was so good, so efficient. And the other thing that's wild about him saying, I don't like playing in the cold, he became a star with the Indiana Pacers. Have you ever been to the city of Indianapolis? Have you ever been to the state of Indiana? It's cold. And it's a 4-season-per-year climate just like Philadelphia. And you're playing inside anyway. Now, what could be next for PG in Philadelphia? We segue there because the contract, it is not good. I mean, he's going to be on the hook for a lot of money for the foreseeable future. Again, one of the risks that we talked about going into free agency. But the Sixers got the best free agent on the open market. And in classic Sixers fashion, it's a move that has absolutely flopped. You know who didn't flop? You know who should provide an example and a blueprint for how to run an organization, how to play in crunch time, how to reach and exceed expectations? It's the Philadelphia Eagles, giving that example to the 76ers. The Philadelphia Eagles are world champions after thumping the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59. So much Eagles Super Bowl gear available. All thanks to our friends at Fanatics. All you have to do, plug in that link down below, chatsports.com/EaglesSB. You have the vintage shirt here. I already purchased this hoodie, by the way, that we're about to show you, myself and Chip. We both got that Super Bowl champions hat. All of this gear, so fresh. You can find it right now, chatsports.com/EaglesSB. My biggest thing with sports merchandise and sports gear, you want it to be able to last forever. Years at the very least. We're never going to forget about that Super Bowl victory, so get yours now. We'll put that link down below in the show notes and attach to the pinned comment of today's 76ers. Now, so we revisit that question, right, that I posed just moments ago. What could be next for PG in Philadelphia? The optimistic angle, he plays well, Sixers turn it around, everything is fine. I just think that they have dug themselves too deep of a hole to turn it around this year. Realistically, the season continues like it's gone already. PG plays poorly. What could happen next year? Option number one, Sixers decide to just run it back with Paul George. You hope that another year brings better results. Maybe he gets a little bit healthier. Option number two, Sixers keep Paul George, but they cut his minutes. You let the younger guys get more burn in 2025, 2026. Option number three, the Sixers trade Paul George. That's probably the best option because then you get out from that contract and you admit that, yeah, you made a mistake And can you find a way to trade Joel Embiid as well, even if it's for pennies on the dollar? Build this team around Tyrese Maxey. I'm serious, and I'm to that point because they haven't made it to the Eastern Conference Finals since 2001. I don't see that changing until they move off of Paul George and or Joel Embiid. Now, of course, how realistic is a Paul George trade? I don't think that Morey would trade him. This only happens if Morey gets canned, probably. New regime comes in. I do think that's possible. If the Sixers miss the play-in tournament entirely, Josh Harris might say, Bob Myers, you worked well alongside me when we looked for a new Commanders GM and Commanders head coach. You want to get back into a basketball front office? You getting that itch a little bit after helping me as a consultant with the Commanders, being on air for ESPN? Help me run basketball operations with the Sixers, and let's get this thing back on track. Now, it would take for the Sixers to trade Paul George, a desperate team to trade for him. Given that contract, given the age, the worrying signs of decline, his value wouldn't be all that high. But think about this. The value is not what you get back for him or Joel Embiid. The value is getting off of that contract. And Chip, I think that's a good point that you can expand on there.
Yeah, that contract right now that you have is just going to hinder this team so much. In the coming years, there's no chance for you to build any different structured team than you have right now as long as that Paul George contract is on there because you're paying the maxes to Maxey, to Embiid, to Paul George. You have like nothing else left. You're maybe going to be able to bring back Yabusele. That's why Morey said they traded away Martin. You signed Justin Edwards to a regular deal. You know, you have some of these younger pieces, but you're not going to be able to make significant changes to the team. You trade away Paul George, you find a team who's willing to take him on, then all of a sudden, you open up some more flexibility to do something different and just sort of reset.
Yeah.
And I'll say this too, like, the way this season's going, I don't really see how you can have any belief other than it's just going to end up being a disaster. There's been like no, outside of the win on Christmas against the Celtics, there's been pretty much no good vibes all year long, right? Yeah. So if I had to predict it, they probably keep losing games, and they probably miss the play-in. Now, they're only game and a half, 2 games behind the Bulls for the 10 seed, but even if they make it, I don't think they probably make the playoffs anyways. They might beat the Bulls, but I don't really see them making the playoffs regardless. I think it's somewhat realistic that Morey does get canned. Like, maybe right now a 33% chance, I think, that he's not back next year. And Stephen A. also brought up a great point that I want to bring up. Josh Harris, obviously Sixers, Commanders, he's good friends and has close connections with Magic Johnson. And Stephen A. was like, you don't think Magic Johnson, one of the greatest NBA players we've ever seen, is at least once in Josh Harris's year? You don't think Harris is at least once asked Magic his thoughts on the Sixers and how they're running things? And if I'm Magic, and I'm telling it how it is, I'm telling him, like, you got to fix something here with these Joel Embiid, Paul George contracts because it's not working out. So if I had to bet, I do think Paul George is on the team next year, but there is a possibility this team keeps losing and they try to do anything to get off of that deal. Maybe Bob Myers is the general manager come next season.
Yeah, and maybe they just decide to reset/rebuild a little bit, and they try to do it around Tyrese Maxey. So what say you? What should the Sixers do with PG this offseason? T for trade, K for keep.